my daddy was a farmer. He raised, whatever he raised on in the farm. Yeah. And he owned the orchard. He's into that. He's in the grocery store, train station, with his daddy and the post office. He ran the post office for a good while, and I was assistant. After his daddy got out, and he taken over, and I was his assistant.
Now, what kind of work did you do here in Oconee County?
Well, most of the time I worked with my daddy at his ATM.
Now, was that in the orchards?
It was in the orchard, part-time in the field. And, well, part of the time I worked in the store. Yeah, train station.
You were assistant postmaster one time.
Yeah, I was there. I wasn't the postmaster.
No, assistant.
Yeah.
Assistant.
Well, I done sawmill work. Back then you had to do whatever you could find, $1 a day. That's big money.
How did the orchards change over the years that you would see them change? When you first started working in orchards, how would you pick the apples and I know we have apple packing houses now, but back then, how did that operate?
Well, at that time, most of the apples were sold local. We had an apple stand. She said we sold most of them in the apple stand. Some of them we packed, not too many of them. But later on, I got to putting out more orchard on apples. And it would color and would pack, and got a pack full of apples. Oh, we usually got these migrants doing apple picking. They had to, couldn't pick themselves.
And they would come through from Florida.
Most of them was from Florida,
You know, I was a little resentful toward people coming in here and working instead of people around here doing it until I realized we couldn't do it. There was too much.
You couldn't run up local help. Take care of it.
Now, Mr. Matheson, back to the apple stand and the apple business. Did you all make your own cider?
Oh, no, we had it made.
You had it made.
A guy in the community that made it for everybody that wanted it.
You had to have a machine to mash it up and strain it and everything.
How is that made?
You mashed up the apples, then strained it out.
We did make some of ours cider. My son made it, Daddy made it. Anybody ready more to make it himself.
Who made the cider?
Beg pardon?
Who was it that made it?
Oh. What is
Jesse
it?
Swofford made some.
Who?
Swofford's.
Yeah, they made most of it.
But when we started out, somebody down here around
Burton.
Burton did it when we first started.
Yeah.
The reason, we always was careful about who made cider for us, because they would change apples with you. And some of them would put rotten apples in it, because I know this man was putting rotten apples in mine. He was making it down here at 5 Forks, I believe. No, it wasn't 5 Forks. What's that place?
Yeah, that's right. Bible. That's what it was.
Somebody saw him. He said, if Polly got hold of what you're doing, you'll never make no more cider for her.
And was that true?
Yeah. I wanted good cider. I want what I sold to be good.
Well, back then, people didn't worry about flies and things getting on their apples drying, did they?
No. You know, I was one of the first people in this country who could not stand for flies to get on my dry apples that I was drying. So I took them, at first I took some net and put over top of them and everything. And then I got where I put screen doors on top of them where no flies or nothing could get to them. And I'd crawl up on top of that building up there, that old building, that store building. I'd crawl up there and put them on the top, the roof there. And, but I'd put those screens over them. And, I got all those screens that some man came into this country. And he'd get our winters, he measured them and made screens for them. And the screens that he took down here and anywhere else, he gave them to me. And so I had those screens.
Yep.
I went out to Bill Matheson's store one time. It's Lisa, I don't know who the man was, was drying apple for him. But he had them on some kind of thing. And they was yellow jackets on there so fast and so ready that you could see those, the wings and everything and that stuff. Why would he eating that? Lord, no. I don't know why he did that, why he didn't know better.
Well, when you dried the apples, how did you go ahead and cook them up then and can it? Or
No, you dried them, and you at night you had to cover them up, or when it rained, till they dried, and then when they got good dry, you just took them up and put them in a flour sack or something and kept them.
mhm,
When we sell them, we put them in bags.
Lord, I sold all like a maid, didn't I, Furman?
Yeah.
Oh, I had the
You
time.
couldn't make enough.
and that's time consuming to peel them and cut them.
Well, Furman would help me peel. He worked in the store, you know, when he had time to spare, and he'd help me peel the apples. And I'd crawl up on the building there and I always spread mine out so they dry in a hurry.
Well, when you had your apple stand, did you have patrons that would come up from Florida and you would become friends with them and they would come through every year, the tourists going to the mountains?
I did.
Do you remember any in particular that meant a lot to you that y'all were friends with over the years and years?
Well, but I couldn't call their names now, and I probably wouldn't know them if they walked up, but I had some from Florida that came by and bought stuff. I had some doctors from there, Greenville, okay. And the first time he ever came there to buy apples from me, he asked me, he said, "Are these apples wormy?" And I'm always doing things like that, and I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "You know, protein is valuable, and you have to have protein." And he knew better though, and every time he'd come up, he'd ask me if I had any protein apples.
Well, you were on a good road to have a good business
Yeah,
with all
well,
the tourists coming
And
up.
then the people in the county would come and buy apples. Well, we had a business now, I'm telling you we did. Of course, everybody else had a pretty good one too.
Well, why is the apple industry, I guess you would say, why, it seems to me it's moving out of Long Creek area. Why do you think, Mr. Matheson?
Well, the biggest thing of these locals is the price you have to pay for the stuff sprayed with tractors and all that stuff. I just got out of line. Couldn't make it. Take them to a packing house. We're going to get you $12 bushel for these. Well, when it comes time to settle up, you might have got $3 a bushel. That's the way it went. And you just couldn't make nothing. And that's the reason I quit. Well, that, another reason, somebody stole my tractor. And I just said, hey, heck with those.
Yeah.